Well, Terri, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
You got it.
So, before we get into your work, I want to know this. 5.5, 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our worlds. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach things today?
Yeah, we use a simple methodology called What If Up. And so we worked with our employees and all of our clients, and we just said, hey, what if we use this to find new ways to do business? And what if we use this to find another way to serve clients? And all of our clients grew in the pandemic. And it really was because we helped them innovate and really think differently about their business.
So, let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. There's a lot of titles, there's a lot of things, business growth expert, author, but I want to know this. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day at a schoolhouse, one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. What's your answer?
Yeah, I grow things that matter and make the world better. And I do that through investing in products and then also training and coaching and consulting, helping those companies grow.
When you were that age, what was your dream job? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I grew up with in a very abusive situation. We were very poor. Both of my parents were alcoholics, so I didn't have big dreams. I think in my mind, I thought, well, maybe I'll be a teacher or maybe I'll manage a restaurant. I certainly could never have dreamed that I would be living the life that I'm living today.
So was there anything about those early years, even getting into being a teenager that lent you to being in business? How did you get this business acumen?
I wish I could answer that question. Once I realized that I was smart and went to college, I had an aunt and uncle that helped me, and I became a classroom teacher. So I started my career teaching middle schoolers, and then after a couple of years of that, the school system doesn't really teach the love of learning, and that's what I thought that I was doing is I was going to teach kids to love to learn. And so I thought, well, what else can I do? And I went to an educational software event and I was like, wow, this would be a great way to help more kids. And lo and behold, I got into that company in 1989. And that's when I found I had this gift for growing businesses that I never knew I had. And I had a great career with them and then became an executive for them and then went on and did other things. I was president of an internet company that became an IPO on NASDAQ in the late 90s. And just this natural gift for growing businesses. I mean, I wasn't classically trained in marketing or sales, but it's just something I know how to do.
But being in that educational environment must have given you a more refined idea of what kids need, what people need in an education system. Did that kind of refine your approach to everything or to business?
I think what it did is it helped me be a better communicator. I learned how to say the same thing three times, three ways. And I think that has really caused me to be effective. But the business growth stuff, part of it's just curious George. What causes a business to grow? What causes this business to grow and that business not? I think it's just the curious George nature in me that I want to figure out what's the best way to grow in the most healthy, most profitable ways. And then I just research and figure it out.
Who's been your hero? Who's been an inspirational guiding light for you from your early years to finding your foothold in the professional world to right now?
In my early years, it was my grandfather. He taught me a very powerful lesson that you get what you focus on, and taught me how to shift my focus off of the problems that I was having in our family onto where I wanted to go. And then after that, I've been fortunate that I've worked with some of the best leaders in the world, Tony Robbins, Ian Van Zant, Wayne Dyer, Mike Dooley, Joe Dispenza, and I would really kind of anchor to Wayne Dyer and his incredible ability to kind of see the possibilities in life. And so I really give him a lot of credit for helping me think differently.
The one thing about business, it's a lot like sports and other realms where there's this rags to riches thing, where there's these innovators and these thinkers that change the world, like Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett's and people along those lines. Who in the world of business do you believe has done a good job from the top down, being profitable, taking care of their people, delivering a good product, things that you would obviously emulate in business growth patterns? Who has that been for you?
It's not any one person because I've taken things from different leaders, both visible leaders and then just everyday leaders. I really specialize in companies that are trying to do good. So, for example, I invested in and we do the marketing for Your Izzy, which is the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. One of our clients is called Mender, and they take old technology out of companies and repurpose it in sustainable and ethical ways and give their clients a really good ROI, but also protect the environment because there's a lot of waste. So that's really, I'm fortunate that all of my clients are like that. They do things that matter. They try to both make money and do good. So Joe, I don't think there's any one because
Right.
I'm surrounded by all of these leaders that's what they do. And there's so many companies that are doing good and we just don't get to hear about them.
Yeah. So the one thing about being effective in business is that it's that entrepreneurial mindset of risk.
Mhm.
When you look at your timeline, your professional timeline, what was the biggest risk that you've taken in your career?
I think if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would say it would have been leaving the classroom and going into the business world because I had no clue. I had no computer experience and I went to work for an educational software company and I convinced them that I could learn it. At a very young age. And that was big. And then I think the second thing was really realizing that I could be president and CEO, and then taking that risk in my 30s, becoming president of an internet subsidiary. But the real risk that I took was in 2008, where I sold a very, very successful business. I was sitting on a pot of money and I had this crazy idea to build like a purposeful Shark Tank and basically kind of bet the farm on conscious businesses. And that was really the biggest risk. And the most fascinating thing about that, Joe, is it wasn't the money that I've made or the money that I lost early and then the money that I made. It really was who I became in the process. And I think that's what most of us are afraid of is the possibilities of our life rather than the challenges and the risk. I think we're really afraid of taking that next step. And fortunately, I've pushed myself through that. And now I would never trade anything for what I get to do today.
So coming from early strife and overcoming what you had to overcome to becoming a teacher and then you're a CEO, did you have a big brick wall that said imposter syndrome on it? Was that ever a part of your world?
Oh yeah, I had to do a lot of work on that. Still am doing work on that. And it was there's a double-edged sword to it. There was part of me that feared I wasn't good enough. So then I tried to prove that I was good enough, wore myself out trying to prove that I was good enough. And then there was a part of me as I was wearing myself out that judged other people and tried to knock them down on a peg so that I could feel good enough. And so it was this vicious game that I feel like I'm only beginning to truly have some conscious awareness of how to manage my own emotions and thoughts so I don't go down those trails. But I've done a lot of research on this. 98% of all the people I've studied have made a decision early in their life that they're not good enough. And they spend the rest of their life trying to either prove or disprove that early decision. And what I've learned is if you can go back and recreate that early decision, you can create real change.
So there's sometimes CEOs and high-powered business minds will get that question of balance between personal life and work. And a lot of times they'll just blow that whole question up. Like it doesn't exist. It's not, it's a myth. What's your perspective on that? Like when you wake up, how does that work for you?
It doesn't exist because, we were caregivers for my uncle who I absolutely adored, and he was in a very difficult situation, and my team had to pick up the slack because we had hospice coming in and going out, and so there's no such thing as work-life balance. What there is balance between where you're focused. And my focus needed to be on caring for him, not on running these businesses. So I just don't believe, I think it's a fallacy because it works both ways. Is sometimes people work too much and they don't balance their personal life. And then sometimes your personal life really eats into your business and career. So I just don't believe it's about work-life balance. I think it's really about balancing your focus.
So we spend our whole lives really focusing on the work that we're doing, this professional life that we're etching day by day, kind of this existential line that we draw on the paper. But there's always this big word retirement that's looming on the horizon, like a Hollywood sign. What's your perspective? When you think and see that word retirement, what comes into your mind?
I will never retire because I love what I do too much.
Yeah,
I will just probably do less and less and spend more time doing, things like travel and beach. I just turned 60, so I'm already starting to do that but I will never retire. I just love what I do too much. I'll do it until one day I just don't wake up and that's it.
that's Ed. So, yeah, I always find that interesting with the timeline of Charles Schultz. I don't know if you remember the Peanuts creator. The morning his last comic came out, he passed. It's like
Yeah,
that idea, you know?
that's exactly right.
Poured his whole life into it. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into an 18-year-old version of you, and you walk up to that young version with the book in your hands. It's a big coffee table book. You hand it over and you say, "This is the life that's been lived so far." Would that young version of you believe this all happened?
No way. No way. I mean, my aspiration at 17 was I was working at Wendy's. I'd left home very early and I was working at Wendy's to, cover my expenses in high school. And I thought, well, maybe someday I'll be the manager of this Wendy's restaurant in Crystal River, Florida. That was my dream. And then when I went to college and I realized I could be a teacher, I was like, wow, maybe I could be a teacher. Well, wow, what would that look like? I would never in a million years have imagined I'd be living in a beautiful house and traveling where I want to and making businesses grow that are doing good in the world. There's no way I could have imagined it.
Would you give that version of you advice?
Yeah, I would say it's going to be easier than you think it is. Don't make it so hard because I think we make things harder than they need to be.
So the one thing about being in the business world is that sometimes it's hard to kind of get into the personality of the person. So I'm going to put you in front of a room of everybody that's known you in a business professional sense, whether as a consultant or a boss or what in any capacity. And you walk up to that podium in that room and you can tell them one fun story about you. First concert you went to, the best sporting experience you ever had, jumping out of an airplane, just a fun story, a great place you traveled to. What would be a fun story that might humanize you a little bit to that room that knows you in a strictly business sense?
Yeah, I think it's in 2018, our largest business lost a very large client who chose not to pay their invoices. And over a 6 month period, I lost like $1.3 million. Just, things just started crumbling. And I had this kind of DNA shift is the only way to describe it, where I just thought, I'm going to be grateful for this failure because there's going to be good things that are going to come from it. And I really just started rolling with that. And it was so effective at helping us get through that I got the word grateful tattooed to my arm, and it's a real tattoo. And I look at it every day just to remind myself to be grateful for when things are working, but also when they're not working. Sometimes really good things come from that. And so I wouldn't say it's fun because for me, business is fun, but I do think it's most people, when they look at my life, they don't realize I've had as much failure as I have, but I really did teach myself how to be grateful for failure.
So speaking of all the successes and failures, when you look back on your life, what are you the proudest of? What stands at the top?
It's building a portfolio where our employees get to really create their own career. It's very unique in that they come for a job, but then we really get to know them and we really figure out their passions. And because we have so many businesses and so many investments, they really get to figure out what they love to do and kind of make their own career. And I absolutely love that. And we'll be putting the portfolio in a trust for them, so that it perpetuates and lives on. And just watching them, we've had people that have worked from us from day one, all the way to the person I'm mentoring right now who started with us a month ago. And knowing that they have this incredible career opportunity, and watching them grow and really reach for the things that they're really passionate about. That's what I love.
We're in this level of uncertainty. We hear all these things about what the economy is going to do, and we always hear these things swirling. And I know that we live in a very strange time in America. Do you wake up hopeful? Do you find hope in what's going on right now?
Ironically, I do. I publish a report. I was doing it every 3 years. Now I'm doing it every year. It's called the Conscious Business Forecast. And the data is overwhelming. One out of every two businesses that are started today are started to both make a profit and make a difference. And most people don't realize that. And the way that conscious businesses are growing in spite of some of the challenges, I really do believe the next 5 years are going to be the best time ever for conscious businesses, and I've got the data to back that up. So, what I'm optimistic about is that people are wanting authenticity and they're wanting companies to really care. And I think that it's the best time for those kind of businesses to really lead the way to a better world.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a change agent for people that want to create more in their life and business. And I have both techniques and these kind of ways to see through people to really see who they really are so they can see the potential in themselves. So maybe some people kind of call me a bit of a wayfinder, helping them find their way.
So in all these travels that you've done around the globe, what's been one of the most magical places you've ever been to?
Hawaii is up there, and then Italy, and then I would also say the London, UK area. I absolutely love that area. And then really one of the most unique trips I had was to Prague. Prague is really unique because they're in the middle of this 2 decades long shift to being more of a democratic society and consumer oriented society, yet you walk down the streets in these beautiful places and you see, buildings that still have scars and bombs and things like that, and people just walking around like it means nothing. So I found, Prague to be a really, really special place. But I think the place where I really get charged up the most is in Hawaii.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
Probably just LinkedIn. I think because we do so many different things, I think they can find me on LinkedIn. And then we have some really cool tools for individuals on Succeed on Purpose under resources. And then for entrepreneurs, I would say check out Shiftco. We do lots of free training and tools there, so they can check that out as well.
So Terri, final question. If you can get into a time machine and either go into the future or go back in time and see one event, where are you going to go?
I think I would go to 2030 and just see how these conscious businesses have reshaped the way we do business.
Great answer. This has been wonderful, Terri. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Have a wonderful 2026.
Awesome. And Joe,